for sure it is not that Macedonia is excluded from the world market. It is not excluded. I was talking in the sense of expectations of including in the world market. Looking from today's point of view, looking back towards the expectations, our country looks a bit more like a family in the village that produces its own food in the field, and it sells the food to the neighbor in the village, but it needs to buy a television that cannot produce it. So it takes a credit to buy the television. We don't export anything except of Resana and Smoky to Kosovo. So we buy television, we are in that sense involved in the global market that we import, but in the sense of exchange, except of exporting to Kosovo, we don't do much. All our economy is oriented in circulating everything inside the country, except of the kamatni capital, which entered the country in the 94 by huge percentages, and then because the local economy could not support, it had to be supported by economy, it could be supported only by this tiny little local economy, and therefore it had to be depleted to what it looks today. We barely have a factory producing something today in Macedonia, except potatoes and tomatoes and paprikas. So it was more in the sense of expectations of being included in the world market, because by this same logic, the unemployment rate would decrease, because we would have some economic dynamics, some more economic circulation, and then the employment would increase, at the same time increasing the exploitation. But we do have increasing of the exploitation, which is really locally bound. We do not have like this extreme exploitation of the society-wise, because more than a third of the portion stays at home all day and watches TV and drinks coffee and has nothing to do. So in this sense, exclusion, not a exclusion as a scissor cut from the world, from the globalized economy or from the globalized market. And on the other hand, I just reminded, if you look at the stock market in Macedonia, I followed it for the last 4 or 5 years, the value of the aktie, of the shares of the production companies in Macedonia, they barely changed at all. It was only the shares of the banks that fluctuated all the time. So this is another indicator that this economy is really really locally bound in the country and has not much to do with exchange or taking over by other foreign companies or stuff like that. Or even exporting a lot and then being bound to the reaction of the markets where it exports. So it's really locally bound, and it's really, really closed inside the production economy.